The gun is pressed against Evie's right temple, cold metal, heavy, final. Her breath comes in shallow gasps. She can feel her heartbeat pounding in her ears like a war drum. This isn't how she thought her life would end. Not like this. Not after everything she'd overcome. Not after finding someone who actually saw her. The man holding the gun is breathing hard, his voice trembling with rage. You know what your boyfriend did. You know what he took from me. Everything, my business, my reputation, my entire empire. And you're the reason he had the power to do it. Evie's hands are shaking, not from fear of death, but from the realization that she's made the worst possible decision. She's fallen in love with a man who runs an empire built on violence. She's built a life with someone who solves problems with bullets and bodies, and now that decision is costing her everything. But then she hears his voice, Vittorio's voice. It cuts through the darkness like a blade forged in hell. Let her go, Carlo, right now, and I might let you live. There's something in his tone that makes Evie's blood run cold. She's heard Vittorio angry before. She's heard him serious. But this is something different. This is the voice of a man who's about to do something irreversible. Carlo laughs. You're bluffing. The FBI has your entire operation under investigation. You can't touch me. You can't do anything. So I'm taking what matters most to you. Here's the thing that Evie doesn't understand yet. Here's the mystery that will keep you watching until the very end. Why would Vittorio say he'd let Carlo live when what he actually plans to do is something far more calculated and far more brutal? What secret is Vittorio hiding that will make everything that's about to happen make perfect sense? Stay with me, because the answer to that question will change everything. 3 months earlier, Philadelphia. The kind of night that feels like the rest of the city has been switched off, darkness everywhere. The streets are empty, the buildings loom like shadows, and in the middle of all that darkness, there's this one small diner, the Midnight Spoon. It sits on the corner of 2nd and Arch Street like a little beacon of light that nobody asked for. Evie Chen is working the night shift again. She's been working night shifts for 8 years. Her hands are calloused from handling hot plates. Her back aches from standing for 12 hours at a time. Her dreams of becoming a novelist feel more distant with each passing day. But she keeps showing up. She keeps working. She keeps hopping. It's 3:15 in the morning. The coffee in the pot is probably from 6 hours ago. The only customers are a drunk businessman in the corner and a couple that's fighting quietly over their scrambled eggs. Evie is wiping down the counter for what feels like the 1,000th time. Her fingers are cold. The diner's heating system has been broken for 2 months. The bell above the door chimes. Evie doesn't look up immediately. After 8 years of night shifts, she can read a person by their footsteps. This person, their walk is wrong, there's a heaviness to it, a struggle. Whoever just walked in is hurt. When she finally looks up, she sees him. He's tall, dark hair. His face is sharp and angular in a way that makes him look dangerous even when he's not trying to. But what catches her attention is the blood. There's so much blood. It's soaked through his expensive coat on the left side. His shirt underneath is dark red. This isn't a wound from a car accident. This is a gunshot wound. Everyone in the diner stops what they're doing. Everyone knows what this means. They know that someone dangerous just walked through that door. The businessman pays his tab and leaves without finishing his drink. The couple grabs their coats and hurries out. Within seconds, the diner is empty except for Evie and this bleeding man. He looks around at the empty booths. He looks at Evie, and for just a moment, Evie sees something in his expression that surprises her. She sees relief. He's relieved that everyone left. He's relieved that he's alone with her. I need you to call an ambulance, he says. His voice is controlled, but there's pain underneath it. Real pain. Evie comes out from behind the counter. No. I said call an ambulance. And I said no. Ambulances call the police. Police ask questions. Questions lead to paperwork, and paperwork leads to the FBI getting involved. I'm guessing you don't want the FBI involved." The man stares at her. His hand moves to his coat, and for a second, Evie thinks he might pull a gun. She thinks this might be the moment everything goes wrong. But instead, he just nods. A small acknowledgement that she's right, that she understands something about the world that most people don't. "What's your name?" he asks. Evie Chen." "I'm Vittorio Castellano." Even though Evie has never heard that name before, even though she has no idea who he is, she understands immediately that he's someone important. There's a weight to his name, a history, a darkness. "Come on, Vittorio," Evie says. "Let me help you." She leads him to the back of the diner, through the kitchen where the stove is still warm from dinner service, past the storage closet, into the small bathroom. It's cramped and it smells like industrial cleaner and old tile. "Take off your coat," she says. He hesitates. This man who controls half of Philadelphia's underground empire hesitates to take off his clothes in front of a waitress. She watches as he removes the coat, then the shirt. And when she sees his chest, when she sees the dozens of scars crisscrossing his body, she understands that this man has lived a violent life. Every scar tells a story. Every mark is a moment when death came for him and he somehow survived. "This is going to hurt," Evie says as she starts cleaning the wound with warm water and antiseptic. "I've had worse," Vittorio says. That's not very reassuring. She works carefully, methodically. She cleans away the blood. She examines the bullet graze. It's not as deep as she initially thought, but it's bad enough. It's the kind of wound that needs real medical attention. But she works with what she has: gauze, bandages, antiseptic cream. She wraps his ribs tightly, making sure the bandage is secure. And as she's working, as her hands are touching his skin, she realizes something. Vittorio is not used to this kind of care. He's not used to someone touching him gently. He's used to violence. He's used to transactional relationships. But this tenderness, this is something new for him. "Why would you help me?" he asks. His voice is quieter now, more vulnerable. "Because you're bleeding on my bathroom floor, and I'm not the kind of person who walks away from someone in pain." It's such a simple answer, such an obvious answer. But when Vittorio hears it, something shifts in his expression. Evie watches as the hardness in his eyes cracks just slightly. She watches as a small window opens up, revealing the man underneath the monster. They're interrupted by heavy footsteps in the diner, multiple people, armed people. Vittorio stands up too quickly, wincing in pain, and positions himself between Evie and the door. His hand raises, a silent command. When the men enter, they stop immediately. They understand what his gesture means. A man steps forward, Dante Rossi, Vittorio's right hand, his most trusted associate. His eyes scan the bathroom and land on Evie. There's a moment of calculation in his expression. He's trying to understand what's happening here. Why his boss is protecting this woman. Why she's still alive. "She stays safe," Vittorio says to Dante. There's no ambiguity in his tone, no room for negotiation. "Do you understand me?" "Yes, boss," Dante says immediately. "I want $5,000 left here. Cash. Tell her to use it to fix whatever's broken in this diner. Install a security system. Cameras everywhere. 2 security guards rotating shifts. No one who works here works alone anymore. No exceptions." "Already handling it," Dante says. "And Dante, she's mine now. That means if anyone ever touches her, if anyone ever even looks at her wrong, they disappear. Permanently. Make sure everyone in this city knows that." Evie watches this interaction unfold. She watches as a man with absolute power makes a claim on her life without asking permission. Normally, this should terrify her. Normally, this should make her feel trapped. But instead, she feels something different. She feels protected. She feels chosen. The next morning, Evie returns to the diner. Part of her expects to discover that last night was a dream, that she imagined the whole thing, that Vittorio Castellano was just a fever dream brought on by too much caffeine and not enough sleep. But when she opens her locker, she finds a brand new uniform waiting for her. It's not a generic diner uniform. It's tailored, perfectly tailored to her measurements. It's in a dark blue color that, when she holds it up, she realizes matches her eyes almost exactly. There's no note, no explanation, just this perfectly crafted uniform that costs more than her monthly rent. Me, her coworker, finds her standing there staring at it. "Oh my God," me says. "Oh my God, it happened, it actually happened." "What happened?" Evie asks, even though she knows. "Vittorio Castellano didn't just bleed all over your diner and then disappear. He actually came back. He actually claimed you." "He didn't claim me, he just helped. He just needed help and I provided it." "Evie, listen to me very carefully. That man had a $5,000 security system installed in this diner overnight. That man has guards outside now. Do you understand what that means? That means everyone in Philadelphia now knows that you belong to him. That means you're connected to one of the most dangerous people in this city. And that's not something you just brush off." Evie wants to tell me that she's being dramatic, but me isn't wrong. There's a real danger here, a real threat, and Evie knows it. That afternoon, while she's sitting in her tiny apartment, while she's trying to process everything that's happened, she makes a decision. She pulls out her phone and she searches for Vittorio Castellano. The search results make her stomach drop. Organized crime, FBI investigations, suspected involvement in multiple murders, money laundering across 3 states, drug trafficking, racketeering. Every single result is worse than the last. This isn't a man who runs a legitimate business. This isn't a man who has a normal job. This is a man who's built an empire on violence and fear and the broken bodies of people who got in his way. Evie feels like she's going to be sick. Her phone buzzes, an unknown number. "Don't be afraid," the voice says. "It's him. It's Vittorio, and he's been paying attention." "How did you get this number?" Evie asks. "The same way I know that you live on Spruce Street in a 1-bedroom apartment. The same way I know that you write every night in a leather notebook before bed. The same way I know that you've written 3 novels and they've all been rejected by publishers. I know everything about you, Evie." Evie's heart is racing. This should terrify her. This should make her want to disappear. This should make her hang up and move to another city and start over. "Why?" she asks. "Why would you know all that about me? You don't even know me." "I know you because the moment you decided to help me instead of call for help, I needed to know everything about you. I needed to understand the kind of person who would risk their safety for a stranger, the kind of person who would choose compassion over self-preservation." "That's insane, that's stalking, that's—" "It's love," Vittorio says. And the way he says it, the way his voice carries so much conviction and so much pain, Evie feels her resistance crumbling. "You're the first person in 10 years who looked at me like I wasn't a monster, like I was someone worth saving. And I became obsessed with you. I became obsessed with understanding you." There's silence on the phone, long silence, the kind of silence that feels like free falling. "Have dinner with me," Vittorio says. "One dinner, just one. After that, if you want to disappear, I'll let you go. I'll make sure you're protected, make sure no one ever bothers you, but I'll let you walk away." Evie knows this is a lie. She knows that people don't just walk away from Vittorio Castellano. She knows that the moment she says yes, her life will change in ways she can't predict and probably won't be able to handle. "Okay," she whispers anyway. She spends the entire day preparing. She takes a shower that lasts 45 minutes. She shaves her legs. She does her hair. She changes clothes 6 times, trying to find something that's both attractive and not too attractive, something that shows she cares without showing that she cares too much. Me texts her, "Where are you? You're not at work." Evie texts back, "I called out, I have a date." Me calls her immediately, "You have a what? With who?" It's complicated. Evie, no, 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 no. Tell me it's not with who I think it's with. Evie doesn't answer, which is answer enough. Evie, you can't do this. You can't go out with a mob boss. You can't put yourself in this position. This is crazy. I know, Evie says, but I'm doing it anyway. The restaurant is called Locanda. It's tucked into Reading Terminal Market, hidden in the back where most people would never find it. The kind of place that doesn't advertise. The kind of place where you have to know someone to know about it. Vittorio chose it specifically because it's private, because the owner is loyal, because no one will ask questions about a mob boss and a waitress having dinner together. When Evie arrives, Vittorio is already there. He's wearing a suit that probably costs more than Evie's car. But when he sees her, when he stands up to greet her, his expression softens in a way that catches her off guard. He looks vulnerable. He looks almost nervous. You came, he says. You gave me a choice, Evie says. Did I? That's very generous of me, considering I've been planning this dinner for weeks. He pulls out her chair. They sit. They order wine. They order food. And then slowly, carefully, they start to talk. Vittorio tells her about his childhood. A mother who cleaned offices to pay the rent. A father who left when Vittorio was 5. A neighborhood where violence was the only language anyone understood. He tells her that by the time he was 16, he'd already decided his path. By 18, he'd killed his first man in self-defense. By 30, he'd built an empire that controlled half of Philadelphia's underground business. Why are you telling me all this? Evie asks. Wouldn't most people want to hide this? Most people, yes. But you're not most people. You're the person who looked at a bleeding stranger and decided to help instead of run. You deserve to know exactly what you're dealing with. You deserve to know the actual man, not the legend. Evie tells him about her own life. About her parents dying in a car accident when she was 22. About having no family to help her. About taking the job at the diner because it was the only place that would hire her. About working doubles for 6 years. About writing novels that no one wants to publish. I want to read them, Vittorio says. You don't read. I do. I read everything. It's how I've survived this long. I read people. I read situations. I read possibilities. Show me your novels. As the night goes on, something unexpected happens. The fear doesn't disappear, but it becomes something else. It becomes attraction. It becomes understanding. It becomes the recognition of two broken people finding someone who understands exactly how broken they are. Vittorio reaches across the table and takes her hand. His hand is warm, steady, confident. But underneath that confidence, Evie feels something else. She feels the need. She feels the desperation of a man who's been alone for so long that he's forgotten what connection feels like. I'm a monster, Evie, Vittorio says as dessert arrives. I've done things that would make you hate me if you knew the details. I've hurt people who didn't deserve to be hurt. I've made choices that I'll never forgive myself for. But when I'm with you, I feel like I could be something different. I feel like I could be better. Everyone wants to be better, Evie says. Not like this. I want to be better because you exist, because I've seen what it looks like when someone cares about you unconditionally, and I want more of it. I want all of it. I want you. The restaurant closes at midnight. Vittorio takes her hand and leads her back to his penthouse in Rittenhouse Square. The building is exclusive. The kind of building where celebrities and billionaires live. The kind of building where security checks you before you even step foot in the lobby. The elevator opens directly into his apartment. The view of Philadelphia spreads out below them like he owns it. Evie walks to the window. She can see the Midnight Spoon Diner from here. The place where everything started. So far away and so close at the same time. Are you sure about this? Vittorio asks from behind her. Once you cross this line, there's no going back. My enemies will target you. My business will put you in constant danger. Your life will change. You'll lose your privacy. You'll lose your freedom. And you might lose me. Evie turns around. She looks at the man who controls half of Philadelphia's underworld. The man who has the power to end lives with a single word. The man who's also desperately afraid that she'll leave. "I've already crossed the line," Evie says. "The moment I decided to help instead of call the police, I crossed it, so we might as well see where it leads." They come together. It's not gentle. It's not what you'd call romantic in a traditional sense. It's desperate and passionate and intense. It's two people who have been alone for so long finally finding someone who wants to stay. Afterward, they lie in the dark. Vittorio tells her things he's never told another living person. He tells her about the men he's killed, about the decisions that haunt him, about the nights when he wakes up in a cold sweat because he's dreaming about drowning and no one comes to save him. "I'll save you," Evie whispers. "You can't save a monster." "You're not a monster. You're a man who made hard choices in a hard world. That's different. That's human." The next morning, Evie wakes up alone. Vittorio is gone. He left a note on the pillow. "Had to handle business. This wasn't a choice, it was a necessity. But you're all I'm thinking about, V." There are guards outside her apartment. Two men in dark suits who follow her everywhere. To work, to the coffee shop where she writes, to the grocery store. They're supposed to protect her from danger. Instead, they remind her that she's trapped, that her life has been consumed by his world. But she doesn't run, even when Me begs her to, even when her instincts scream that she should disappear and change her identity and start over somewhere far away from Philadelphia. She stays. Vittorio calls constantly, late-night conversations that turn into early morning ones. He tells her about his business, vague details about shipments and negotiations and the constant threat of rivals trying to take what's his. She tells him about her writing. He listens with the kind of attention that makes her feel like what she's saying actually matters, like her dreams matter, like she matters. "I want the city to know you're mine," Vittorio says during one of these calls, his voice low and intense. "I want to take you out publicly. I want my enemies to understand that if they touch you, they die. I want everyone to know that you're untouchable because you belong to me." "Isn't that dangerous for me?" Evie asks. "If people know I'm connected to you, won't that put a target on my back?" "It's more dangerous if they don't know. Right now, you're vulnerable. Right now, anyone could approach you and think they have a chance. Once they know you're under my protection, you become untouchable. Your safety becomes my priority. And there's no one in this city who would dare threaten my priorities." So he takes her out, to restaurants where everyone knows his name, to galleries where the owners greet him with a mixture of fear and respect, to a jazz club in Old City where the music is loud and the drinks are expensive and everyone understands exactly what his presence means. At first, people stare, they whisper, but slowly the whispers change. They stop calling her the waitress. They start calling her Vittorio's girl. Then Vittorio's woman. Then eventually just Mrs. Castellano, even though they're not married. She receives gifts, not cheap gifts. Rare first edition books from the 1940s, a vintage typewriter that Vittorio somehow managed to find, a diamond bracelet that probably costs more than a year of her salary. Each gift comes with a handwritten note. Each note is another piece of his heart that he's trying to give her in the only way he knows how. Me visits her one afternoon. She walks through the penthouse with her jaw hanging open. She runs her hands along the marble counters and the expensive furniture and the art that probably costs more than a house. "This is insane," Me says. "Evie, this is actually insane. You're actually doing this. You're actually staying with him." "I love him," Evie says simply. "You barely know him. You've known him for 2 weeks. I know him better than I know anyone. He's told me things about himself that he's never told another living person. He's vulnerable with me. He's real with me. When I'm with him, I'm not just surviving. I'm actually living." 2 weeks into their relationship, Evie is sitting in Vittorio's penthouse, looking out at the city lights, and she realizes something important. She's happy. Actually, genuinely happy. For the first time since her parents died, she's not just going through the motions. She's not just working and sleeping and writing and repeating. She's actually experiencing life. And the person responsible for that transformation is a man who kills people for a living. The contradiction should bother her more than it does. A week later, Vittorio shows up at the Midnight Spoon Diner. It's the middle of the afternoon on a Tuesday. The diner is moderately busy. There are construction workers at the counter, a couple sharing a piece of pie in a booth, an older man reading a newspaper. The moment Vittorio walks in, everything stops. Every conversation halts. Every customer looks up. And everyone understands in that instant that something important is happening, that this man doesn't go out in public without a reason, that his presence here means something. He walks to the counter. He sits down. He orders a coffee from Evie as if he's just a regular customer. But the way he looks at her, the way his eyes hold hers, the way he smiles slightly, everyone in the diner understands what's really happening. They understand that he's declaring his ownership of her in front of witnesses. They understand that she's his now. Officially, publicly, untouchably. Evie pours his coffee with hands that are only slightly trembling. "Coming back for more of my terrible coffee?" she asks. "Coming back for you," Vittorio says. "Always for you." That night, Vittorio takes Evie to the roof of his penthouse. The city spreads out below them like a kingdom. Lights everywhere. Millions of lives happening simultaneously. The weight of it all feels almost unbearable. "I want to ask you something," Vittorio says. "I want to do it the right way, even though nothing about us has been right or conventional or safe." He kneels. He pulls out a ring. It's not what Evie expected. It's not flashy or ostentatious. It's simple and elegant and understated. It's a single diamond set in white gold. It's perfect. "Marry me," he says. "Not because it's safe, not because it's easy, but because I want to spend the rest of my life trying to be someone worthy of the person who didn't walk away when they should have. Marry me because you saved me. Marry me because I love you. Marry me because I can't imagine a future without you." Evie pulls him up and kisses him. She says yes. And in that moment, she makes a decision that will define the rest of her life. She pulls out the leather notebook she's been carrying for 3 months. She opens it and shows him the pages. Hundreds of pages, a complete novel, a novel about a waitress and a mob boss, a novel that tells their story, his story, her story, their story. "I wrote all of this," she says. "Every conversation, every moment, every kiss and every argument and every moment of vulnerability. I turned us into fiction." Vittorio reads the opening passage. It's the scene from the diner. The moment she decided to help instead of call for help. The moment she decided that compassion mattered more than self-preservation. The moment that changed everything. "This is beautiful," he says. His voice is thick with emotion. "You're beautiful. I'm in love with you." "I know," Evie says. 3 months pass. Evie's agent calls with news that changes her life. A publisher wants to buy her book, a real publisher, a real book deal. The novel will be called Beneath the City Lights. It will be released 6 months from now. She'll finally be a published author. She'll finally be a novelist. Her dream is actually coming true. She tells Vittorio immediately. He picks her up and spins her around and kisses her with an intensity that nearly knocks her off her feet. He promises to make sure the book becomes a bestseller. He tells her that he's going to buy copies for everyone he knows and force them to read it. But in that moment of celebration, something else is happening. Something dark, something dangerous. One of Vittorio's rivals, a man named Carlo Giacomo, is making a move. He's been losing territory. He's been losing money. His business is crumbling. And he's decided that the best way to take back control is to take away the one thing that matters most to Vittorio. "Evie." This is where we circle back. This is where the mystery starts to make sense. Evie is walking to her apartment after her shift at the diner. It's 10 o'clock at night. The streets are empty. The guards that usually follow her are gone because she told Vittorio she wanted one night of freedom, one night where she could feel like a normal person again, one night where she wasn't being constantly watched. It's the worst decision she'll ever make. Hands grab her from behind. A bag goes over her head. She's thrown into a car. She's driven to a warehouse on the outskirts of the city. She's brought to a dark room where Carlo Giacomo is waiting for her. And then Carlo pulls out a gun. He places the barrel against her right temple. You know what your boyfriend did. You know what he took from me. Everything, my business, my reputation, my entire empire crumbling to dust. And you're the reason he had the power to do it. You made him weak. You made him care about something other than power. And now I'm taking what matters most to him. Evie's hands are shaking. Her mind is racing. She's terrified. But underneath the terror, she's also thinking clearly. She's also remembering something that me told her years ago. She's also remembering that she took karate for 3 years in college. And that's when Vittorio's voice cuts through the darkness. Let her go, Carlo, right now. Let her go and I might let you live. Carlo laughs. You're bluffing. The FBI has your entire operation under investigation right now. You have no power, you have no resources, you can't do anything, so I'm taking her. Here's the thing that changes everything. Here's the mystery that finally makes sense. Vittorio isn't bluffing about the FBI investigation. He knows about it because he orchestrated it. He's been working with federal agents for months. He's been feeding them information. He's been building a case against Carlo that's airtight and irrefutable. But Carlo doesn't know that. And that's when Evie does something unexpected. She brings her elbow back with every ounce of force she can muster. She breaks Carlo's nose. Blood explodes across his face. The gun falls, and Vittorio is faster than anyone has ever been fast. He crosses the room. He tackles Carlo to the ground. The fight is brutal and quick. Vittorio beats Carlo with a precision that speaks to years of training and experience. When it's over, Carlo is barely conscious. Blood is pouring from his face and his nose and his mouth. Vittorio turns to Evie. Are you hurt? Did he touch you? No, I'm okay. I broke his nose. You broke his nose. I did karate for 3 years in college. You thought I was just a helpless waitress. You thought you were the only one who could save me, but I can save myself too. Vittorio laughs, actually laughs, and it's the most genuine sound Evie has ever heard. She realizes something in that moment. She's not with him because he's powerful. She's with him because together they're invincible. The FBI arrives 15 minutes later. Federal agents pour into the warehouse. They cuff Carlo. They read him his rights. They tell him that he's under arrest for kidnapping and extortion and about 100 other charges. Evie is still in shock. She's shaking. She's processing what just happened. You set this up, she says to Vittorio. I set up Carlo's downfall, Vittorio says. I set up the FBI investigation. I set up this moment, but I didn't set up your strength. That was all you. You saved yourself. You didn't wait for me to come save you. You took action. You fought back. You won. Vittorio's lawyer is already there, already handling the paperwork, already making sure that both Vittorio and Evie walk out of that warehouse without facing any charges. 6 months later, Evie's book launch happens at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. 200 people are in attendance. Publishers, journalists, fans who pre-ordered her book. Vittorio stands in the back watching her, watching the woman who came into his life by saving him and ended up saving herself. Evie reads a passage from her novel, the scene in the diner, the moment that changed everything. I've learned something important, she tells the crowd. I've learned that love isn't about finding someone who's strong enough to protect you. It's about finding someone who's brave enough to be vulnerable with you, someone who will let you save them, someone who will let you learn that you can save yourself. I wrote this book about a woman and a man who were both broken in their own ways. They didn't fix each other. That's not how real love works. Instead, they learn to live with their brokenness. They learn to accept each other completely, and in doing that, they became whole. She looks directly at Vittorio. She mouths, "I love you." He nods, a promise, a vow, an acknowledgement of what they've built together against all odds. The book becomes a bestseller. It spends 12 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. It gets optioned by a major film studio. Evie gets interviewed by magazines and newspapers and podcasts. She becomes a published author, exactly like she dreamed. And Vittorio steps back from his business. He delegates operations to people he trusts. He focuses on the one thing that actually matters, the woman who didn't walk away. They get married 3 years later. It's a small ceremony, just family and the people who actually matter. Me is there. Dante is there. It's not a traditional wedding, but nothing about their relationship has been traditional. On their wedding night, Vittorio gives Evie a gift. It's a new notebook, not leather like the original. That one had served its purpose. This one is embossed with her initials, EC, Evie Castellano. "Write about us," he says. "Write about what we've become. Write about how a monster fell in love with a waitress and learned to be human." "You were never a monster," Evie says. "I know, you taught me that." And as they kiss, as they move into their future together, we understand something fundamental about love. Love isn't about finding someone who completes you. Love is about finding someone who challenges you. Someone who sees the worst parts of you and loves you anyway. Someone who will stand beside you while you fight to become better. Before you leave, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching this from right now? Leave a comment below and tell me your city or your country. I want to know where you are in the world. I want to know if you're watching from a small town or a big city or somewhere in between. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you made it all the way to the end of this story, if you watched every single minute, then I'm asking you to hit that like button. Hit it for Evie. Hit it for Vittorio. Hit it because this story deserved to be told. And then subscribe to this channel because we're going to bring you more stories just like this one. Stories about love and danger and people who choose each other despite everything telling them not to. Thank you for spending the last 40 minutes with me. Thank you for staying until the end. Thank you for caring about Evie and Vittorio's journey. There's nothing more valuable to me than your time. So please, if you loved this story, if it moved you or made you think or made you feel something, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next story. Because there are so many more stories to tell. Stories about people who fall in love against all odds. Stories about monsters who learn to be human. Stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And I want you to be here for all of them. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one.